What would you do if the very people who witnessed your descent, the neighbors who whispered about your foolish retreat from the corporate world, were suddenly standing at your doorstep, ready to judge the life you had clawed out of the wilderness? The sun has barely begun its descent behind the jagged peaks, painting the valley in hues of bruised purple and dying embers. But the air around the farmhouse is already thick with a suffocating electric tension. Jack moves through the garden, his hands stained with the final, frantic touches of a landscaping project that had to be perfect to the last leaf. Behind him, Tu Tien is adjusting the chairs on the porch for the 10th time, her movements sharp, precise, and dictated by a desperate need for control. They are not merely hosting a housewarming dinner. They are conducting a performance of survival. Tonight, the skeptics, the gossipers, and the cynical relatives are arriving. Will this feast be a triumphant testament to their resilience, or will it be the night the village realizes that, beneath the veneer of their self-sufficient success, there are still cracks in the foundation they are terrified to show? The first guests appear at the old rusted gate, a landmark Jack and Tu Tien spent 2 agonizing days painting to hide the decay. Their silhouettes are stark, judgmental against the fading light. As they approach, Jack feels the familiar phantom weight of his past life as a CEO. The suits, the boardroom meetings, the certainty. He brushes it aside, steeling his spine. He cannot afford to look like a man who is playing house. He must look like a man who has mastered his destiny. "Welcome," Jack says, his voice a polished, practiced instrument that cuts through the murmurs of the arriving crowd. He gestures toward the porch, where the table is groaning under the weight of the harvest, the very vegetables Mother Ly and Tu Tien had spent the morning tending with blistered, earth-stained hands. The transition into the evening is a grueling, slow-motion crawl of forced small talk and subtle, predatory inspections. The guests drift through the living room, their fingers tracing the grain of the reclaimed timber, their eyes lingering on the slight unevenness of the floorboards, the evidence of Jack's lack of professional training. Tu Tien weaves through the group, serving drinks, her laughter bright and high. But her eyes are constantly scanning the room, hunting for the sting of judgment. She is terrified they will ask about the money, about the nights in the barn, about why they would trade status for this relentless, back-breaking labor. "It's certainly ambitious," one neighbor remarks, his gaze shifting from the open-plan kitchen to the rugged, untamed mountainside, visible through the window. "You've put a lot of work into this, Jack. It's quite a departure from the city, isn't it? A bit of a fall from grace, one might say. The barb is sharp, designed to draw blood." Jack feels the heat climb his throat, the old, volatile temper that once dominated his corporate life, threatening to surface. He wants to snap, to explain the strategy, the vision, the sheer scale of what he has built. But then he looks at Mother Ly, standing quietly by the hearth, her hand resting on a piece of furniture he had crafted from scratch. He breathes the scent of pine and rosemary calming him. "It wasn't a fall," Jack replies, his voice steady, devoid of the defensiveness he once harbored. "It was an awakening. I spent years building someone else's empire. Now, I'm building a home that matters. That's not a fall, neighbor. That's a climb." The remark silences the immediate area, the weight of his sincerity landing with an unexpected gravity. Tu Tien steps closer, her hand sliding into his, her presence a physical anchor. She doesn't need to speak. Her support is a wall. The guests exchange glances, their cynicism fraying. They hadn't expected to find this level of poise. They hadn't expected a home that radiated such a profound, grounded sense of purpose. As the dinner begins, the atmosphere undergoes a tectonic shift. The food, the simple, hearty local dishes that capture the true, clean flavor of the mountain soil, begins to work its alchemy. There is something primal about breaking bread that levels the hierarchy of the village. The conversation drifts from their personal choices to the shared realities of life in the valley, The unpredictable mountain rain, the timing of the winter harvest, the necessity of community. Mother Ly sits at the head of the table, her presence a silent, powerful endorsement of the life they have built. When someone probes her about the house, asking if she truly prefers this over the convenience of a modern home, she looks around the room, taking in the light, the wood, and the faces of her children. "I've spent a lifetime living in houses that were just structures," she says, her voice quiet but resonant. "This is the first place I've ever felt like I was allowed to be at peace." The words land like a stone in a still pond, and the skepticism in the eyes of the guests finally evaporates. They begin to see what is actually here. Not a retreat, not a failure, but a fortress of intent. As the night deepens, the bonfire in the yard casts dancing, flickering shadows against the walls of the house, turning the structure into something almost ethereal. The music, a soft, rhythmic hum of a local melody, blends with the wind through the pines. Jack stands at the edge of the porch, looking out at the gathering. He sees the neighbors laughing, the children playing near the garden, the warmth of the home radiating out into the dark. He realizes that the fear he had felt, the fear of their judgment, was the last ghost of his old, performative life. He doesn't need their approval. He doesn't need them to validate his worth. He only needs to know that this house stands, that his family is whole, and that they have built something that can weather any storm. Tu Tien joins him, her eyes tracing the same line of the valley. "They're staying," she whispers, a hint of awe in her voice. "They didn't come to judge. They came to be part of it." Jack nods, pulling her close. The party isn't just a housewarming, it's an initiation. They have survived the construction, they have survived the move, and now they have survived the scrutiny of the community. They are no longer the outsiders. They are the center of their own world. As the last guests finally drift away into the night, the house falls into a comfortable, heavy silence. The remnants of the meal, the scattered chairs, the embers of the fire, it all speaks to a life lived, a milestone conquered. Mother Ly is the last to retreat, pausing at the doorway to look back at the porch one last time. Her nod is enough. She has claimed this space, and tonight, she has seen it accepted by the people who once stood by and waited for it to collapse. Jack and Tu Tien are left in the kitchen, the room feeling larger, emptier, yet more full than it ever has before. They begin the cleanup. Their movements tired but rhythmic, a shared labor that is no longer about survival, but about stewardship. They are tending to the home they created, a process that feels like a ceremony. "We did it," Tu Tien says, her hands deep in the soapy water. "We really did it." Jack looks around the kitchen, the glow of the distant embers casting a flickering golden light into the room. It is messy, it is lived in, and it is entirely wonderfully theirs. He walks to the door, checking the lock one final time. It clicks, the sound of an anchor dropping in deep water, the sound of a life finally anchored. He turns to Tu Tien, their eyes locking in the quiet, golden dark. They don't need to discuss the future. They have already proven they can build it. They don't need to discuss the neighbors. They have already proven they can hold their own. They are finished with the performance, finished with the justification, and finished with the doubt. They are living the life they fought so hard to reach. He takes her hand, guiding her toward their room, leaving the kitchen to its stillness. Outside, the mountains hold their guard. The valley sleeps in the shadow of the peaks, and the house, the beautiful, hard-won, resilient house, stands as a lighthouse in the dark. They are home, and as they drift off to sleep, they know that whatever tomorrow brings, the frost, the harvest, or the next gathering, they will face it together, anchored in the foundation they built with their own hands, protected by the love they refuse to let wither, and strengthened by the knowledge that the best parts of their story are the ones they haven't written yet. The house holds them, the night shields them, and the promise of the morning waits just behind the horizon. no longer a challenge to be met, but a life to be lived. They have won, and the silence that surrounds them is the loudest, most triumphant song they have ever heard. The world outside the gate may change, the seasons may turn, and the mountain may shift, but here, within the walls they built with their own sweat and the bond they forged with their own love, nothing will ever break them. They have planted the seeds of a new life, and now they will watch it bloom, side by side, in the quiet, golden peace of the home they have finally, against every odd, truly created. The night is theirs, the future is theirs, and the peace they feel is the final beautiful harvest of a long, long road. They are safe, they are together, and they are, at long last, exactly where they belong. The cycle closes, the day ends, and the promise of the morning waits just behind the horizon, no longer a weight to be carried, but a life to be embraced, nurtured, and lived with every fiber of their being. As the stars wheel slowly overhead, the house breathes in the dark, a living, pulsing testament to the fact that love is the only thing that makes a house a home, and the only thing worth fighting for when everything else is stripped away. They are at peace, and for now, that is enough. The fire is out, the house is dark, but the warmth remains, lingering in the wood, in the air, and in the hearts of those who made it all possible. The party was a success, the neighbors are gone, and the future, once a terrifying unknown, is now a horizon they can finally look toward with hope, with courage, and with each other. The final chapter of the build is written, but the story of their life in this house, in this sanctuary, is only just beginning, and they know, with a certainty that transcends the physical walls surrounding them, that they are exactly where they are meant to be. The night carries their dreams into the valley, and the house stands watch, keeping them safe, keeping them together, as the world sleeps on, unaware of the miracle that has taken root in this small, quiet corner of the earth. They rest, they heal, and they prepare. For tomorrow is another day, and they are ready. They are ready to live, to love, and to continue building, not just a house, but a life that honors the sacrifices of the past and embraces the infinite possibilities of the future. The house is a start, a foundation, and a promise that no matter how hard the road, no matter how heavy the burden, they will always find their way back home. And in the end, that is all that really matters. The journey was long, the cost was high, but the destination, this, here, now, is the greatest prize they could have ever hoped for. They are home, they are together, and they are, at long last, at peace. The house stands as a silent witness to their devotion, a monument to their struggle, and a testament to their love, holding them fast in the soft, dark quiet of the night, a sanctuary built not of wood, but of the indestructible ties that bind them to each other, to their mother, and to the life they have so painstakingly constructed. It is a new beginning, a fresh start, and a beautiful, quiet triumph over the uncertainty that had haunted their steps for so long. They are home, and the world is finally, mercifully, at peace. Every board they placed, every nail they drove, every doubt they overcame has culminated in this singular, golden reality. They are not defined by what they lost, but by what they have had the courage to create. And as the dawn prepares to break, painting the valley in new light, they sleep, confident that they are the architects of a legacy that will endure long after the bonfire has turned to ash. They are home. They are home. They are home.